Ray, I want to first start off with asking you about what to expect with this next administration, President-elect Trump, and what maybe to expect differently in managing tensions in the South China Sea.
Well, so it's going to take a little bit, of course, to get the nominations through and figure out who is actually going to be in the seat. And what we've seen so far is we've seen some very hawkish names come through, which indicates that there may be a fairly muscular approach. And you'll recall that in the South China Sea during the first Trump administration, there were quite a lot of, for example, a lot of freedom of navigation operations. They're sort of like a last line of defense, and in a sense, just kind of going back to them was sort of like what we had at the time. But with now the ability to do multilateral sales in the South China Sea, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot more of those.
And how do you think the Philippines is reacting to this all this rhetoric from the Trump administration, or this incoming administration about more engagement in Asia?
Well, Trump will always push allies to do more. But having said that, the Philippines has done more, and I think that they can make a pretty substantial case in that direction. So, Trump tends to be worried about imbalances if he thinks that the U.S. is paying too much and that other countries that should be paying more should be paying more. I don't think that the Philippines will have a hard case to make that they have actually been stepping up to the plate a lot. In fact, they have very much been on the front lines, and I think that he should appreciate that. And of course, mostly they will be dealing not with Donald Trump himself, but with his appointees. And again, all of the appointees that I've seen in the national security space, for the most part, have been, very, uh, I would say, alliance friendly, actually, on the international stage. And in fact, the Secretary of State nominee, Marco Rubio, wrote a very prominent article last year in the National Interest, basically saying that, the U.S. should lean into the Philippine alliance.
Do you think maybe there's an opportunity for the Philippines to ask something different of the United States now that this next administration is coming in? Maybe something that they couldn't ask the previous Biden administration.
I think that, from a Philippines perspective, because they have been so tight with the U.S. on the alliance, being able to talk about, trade arrangements or even economic arrangements that are sort of China free. So if you want to build a China free supply chain, come to us in the Philippines because, unlike maybe some of other Southeast Asian or other Asian neighbors, we don't have that tight relationship with China, and you can sort of, if you're trying to make your supply chains resilient against China, then the Philippines is a destination you should look hard at.